and today I'm going to show you a demonstration on how to make chocolate coated Quince paste. So what I've got here is, this is a pre-purchased piece of Quince paste that I've purchased from a Greek wholesale supply store. You can make Quince paste yourself, and we'll add a recipe to the Cuisine Australia website for that, but for the purpose of cheating I'm going to use this nice hard square rectangular block so that I can cut into some pieces and coat it with chocolate. Okay, so I'm going to cut my Quince paste into some little squares. Measure my square to about that big. We don't want it to be too thick. So I've got a piece there of about 1 inch square. You might want to make them a little bit smaller than that, but it's up to you what you're serving them for. So I'm doing a fairly large piece because I want quite a nice surface on the top, because I want to be able to put a chocolate transfer sheet on top of my chocolate when I'm done. This is a compound chocolate that I'm using here today, so this is made with a base of vegetable fats. It's going to be a lot more forgiving for us. It's going to be a lot easier for us to work with. Okay, so I've just got a piece of baking paper here so that I can put my pieces onto the baking paper when I've done. And I've also got here with me a chocolate transfer sheet. So this guy here is, this is the hippy pattern. This has basically got just your greens, oranges, comes out looking a little something like that. So what we're going to do is cut out some little squares of this and put them on top of our Quince paste once the chocolate is set. So I'm going to cut my squares to be about the size of my square, just a little bit bigger. So I'm cutting all the way along, so I'm going to cut a nice row. And then I'll cut that into little pieces. Just consider what you're cutting and what you're actually going to end up with on your chocolate. Some of them you might need to cut some little pieces off because they might not look good on their own. Just see a little damaged piece just on the transfer sheet just there, where I've touched it a little bit with my finger. So it's just there. Just the cocoa butter is melted because of my body temperature. So we've got our little pieces of transfer paper, so now what we're going to do is take our pieces of Quince paste. I'm going to drop a few of them in at a time, so I'm going to try and do this quite quickly. I'm going to take a little spatula. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I've just got a few pieces here on my spatula. I'm just going to try and make sure they're all coated just by moving them around here on my big spoon. I'm not putting them into my chocolate because I don't want any of it to melt off into my chocolate just yet. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up a piece like this, just let it drain, wipe it off at the bottom, and then I'm going to take this piece, put it onto my baking paper. I'm going to take one of my chocolate transfer sheets here. I'm going to look for the side where the pattern is, so it's got a little bit of a texture on it, and I'm going to pop this on top like this. I want to make sure that there's chocolate on the entire, that my chocolate transfer sheet covers the entire part of my chocolate. I'm just going to keep going with the rest of these. And then I'll come back and I'll show you the result. Okay, so now we've got all of our Quince paste squares, and we've got our chocolate transfer sheets on top of them in their setting. So we've only had these on here for a couple of minutes, but because we're on a stainless steel surface, it's quite cool, so it is chilling our chocolate. They're not going to be ready yet, but I'm going to test it just to show you the edges. So I've started to lift, and my chocolate is coming up with my transfer sheet because it's not actually melted enough to come up. So I'm going to pop this in the fridge, and then we're going to come back and check it in about 10 minutes, and it should be ready to go. Okay, so I've just got my Quince paste squares here with my chocolate transfer sheets, and now I'm going to, I think that they're all set now, so what I'm going to do is peel the plastic layer off, but I'm just going to start by peeling off a little corner just to check and see if it's done. So I'll grab just one of these. And you can see once I've started peeling, the transfer stays on the chocolate, okay? So any part where there was no chocolate actually touching the transfer sheet, it still stayed on the transfer sheet. You can use any of those bits that are left. This is obviously too small to worry about, but some of these I've got quite a bit hanging over, so you might be able to use those for another piece of chocolate. You'll see the beautiful shine that they get on the surface. They're incredibly shiny because they've taken on the sheen of the paper. So you can see they've got that beautiful sheen to them. Okay, and there's our finished Quince paste squares with chocolate transfer sheets.